Welcome into episode 222. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. UCF played a football game.
They did. I feel like I unfortunately am not as upset with the 57-3 win as the rest of the fan base is. So I'm worried that I'm going to be painted as out of touch on this one.
You will be.
To our YouTube listeners, really quickly, Bailey is staying with me at my apartment, which is you probably can't tell from the video version, but I do the podcast from like a little tiny corner of my bedroom, which absolutely cannot fit two people. So we're just on my couch. I hope you like my wall art.
Yeah.
This is probably how it's going to be for any post games that Bailey's here for. So this should be fun. But so I guess just to recap, if you're listening to this and don't know anything about the game, which I assume that's none of you, but we'll just do it that way anyway. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that UCF won 57-3. The game was never in doubt, and virtually every single position group and individual player either lived up to the hype we had for them or exceeded it. The defense was great. Every single play, the defense was acting like they wanted to actually kill the player they were up against. The running backs actually literally set the record for most rushing yards in a game for UCF. They not only fed everybody, but also still on top of that let RJ Harvey have a great game. Colton Boomer hit multiple field goals like it was nothing. Offensive line looked really good. Defensive line was fantastic. All the transfers seemed like hits. Everything was great. Unfortunately, KJ Jefferson appears to be bad at football. And that's like the one little wrench in what otherwise was one of the most we have nothing to worry about first games of the season I've ever seen in my time covering UCF.
It's only the fact that it's the most important position in the sport.
To some.
Yeah. KJ Jefferson finished 7 of 14 for 164 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He did run for 45 yards on 11 carries, 39 yards actually net, and a rushing touchdown. 3 total touchdowns, an interception. But he didn't look good.
I think even that stat line, while it sounds fairly lackluster, I almost feel doesn't do justice to how bad he actually looked for much of that game. Basic passes were impossible. Almost all of his yards came on just checkdowns or basic passes to receivers. And even those, he just sort of lofted in the air in ways where they were just sitting up there for so long. I was convinced that a faster defense might have taken advantage. Yeah. He threw a pick that I think might have been, this is all sounding bad as I say it, might have been worse than any pick we saw JRP throw in the last 2 years. He was trying to, basically what happened was Townsend's open between KJ and Townsend is a defender, and KJ could just sort of lob the ball over, and he kind of hesitates with his wrists a few times and then just throws the ball directly into the defender's chest. So I don't know what, it was bad.
I'd say,
to be honest,
the 3 total touchdowns say way less, that was way less the story than the 7 of 14 passing. It was really
the 3
bad.
touchdowns, if I remember right, were all short passes to running backs.
I believe so.
Took off and scored because the running backs are the running backs are crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
It's a game. It's one game. I don't want to burn everything down the way I think a lot of the fan base does. And that's why I'm worried about this way this podcast is going to be received. I am concerned. I can't say I'm not concerned with the way KJ Jefferson looked. But I think, you were going to say it anyway. I think the official position we're both taking is that KJ doesn't have to be a superstar. And I think we said this before the fact that the passing game, and I said it tonight, I don't know if this is an accurate read of percentage wise, and I don't know what it actually means, but I said the passing game just needs to be 30% good so that we can take advantage of the fact that UCF's 4 deep at running back. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if KJ was 30% good tonight.
And I have to say that the one thing KJ did well is he ran the ball well. He had a couple plays where he provided some picked up yards. He was able to show his size. Yeah, and defenders have a hard time bringing him down. So I'm less worried. I know Twitter's in shambles right now, and honestly, fine. I think part of the reason I'm not as worked up is just I don't have the mental energy after 2 years of JRP to keep this going where we want to light the quarterback room on fire after every game. I also think it hurts narratives that were really eager to form when Jacurri came in against New Hampshire's second string and just didn't look very good. He was fine.
He ran the ball well, except for the fumble.
Yeah, he wasn't horrible or anything. It's just his passes weren't super sharp, and he had one big run, and then he fumbled badly on the end of it.
He was 4 of 8 for 21 yards. His longest pass was 6 yards, and he ran 7 times for 60 yards.
Yeah.
But I think his long was 30. He had a 30-yard run that he fumbled at the end of.
I'm just not worried because, and this is we made a pact. I can't say that word. 2 podcasts, and I keep going that we weren't going to crazily overreact in that direction. I think I even on our last podcast made some scenario to you of KJ being horrible, and I don't think it ended up being as bad as what he actually did. But I think that For me, I'm personally not freaked out yet because I obviously understand the quarterback is the most important position. And if your quarterback flat out sucks, yeah, there's a ceiling on what your season can be. But everything else looked great. And I know it's one game, and maybe we'll find out against TCU that, somehow the offensive line actually has a weak point we didn't notice. That's all possible. But
absolutely.
I think if you can just get KJ to average, if you can just get him to be an average replacement level quarterback, I think he can just kind of sit there and watch this team be pretty damn good. And I do believe that they can get him to that. I think there are physical tools that are there. There are 3 years before this that say he can play like that. They just have to get him back to that. I think that him not being live hurt. I don't think that was the wrong decision not having him be live. I think it just, it felt a lot of times like he was just knocking off a lot of rust. Yeah. And I'm hopeful that this isn't KJ's final form. I'm hopeful they can get him better than this,
I talked to some people, and I've said a few phrases multiple times tonight. One was, how did this guy throw for 8,000 yards in the SEC? Because and it was truly, we've had years of production. We've seen years of production from him at Arkansas. I was saying we as if I'm Gus Malzahn in Arkansas. He's been good or decent to good at Arkansas. Pretty good in a lot of cases. Doesn't turn the ball over. He does the job. And so I said that. I said, how does this guy throw 8,000 yards at Arkansas in the SEC? And the other thing I said was that he has never looked this bad. He never looked this bad at Arkansas. No. And that's what concerned me. And I don't know. I don't know.
Can I give a complete, just not based in fact or anything we've heard in any way, shape, or form, just the vibe I got from him? Yes. Sounds bad, but I'm going to say it.
Speculate.
I'll speculate. It felt like he was playing lazy.
Not a good first impression to make.
But you can fix lazy. You can't fix lack of talent. You can't fix lack of physicality. You can make someone less lazy. And maybe I'm wrong, but it's just I don't know. It's just everything. It just felt it felt like a lackadaisical performance. And I want to clarify, I'm just not freaked out right now. And I'm going to tell you another reason why I'm not freaked out. And this is probably playing a part of it. I would probably be in a much worse mental headspace currently if the game at TCU was next week. I want to apologize for complaining all offseason about these 2 fake games to open the season, because now I'm like, hell
I said it last week. I was like, it's good that UCF has 2 preseason games because the things they need to iron out, they'll be able to do that. I just didn't think one of them would be the quarterback,
whether KJ is good or not. Yeah. But I actually do feel a lot better about I bet we will see a better performance from him next Saturday.
What if he goes out and he's not 7 of 14, but what if he goes 10 of 21?
Then I'll freak out. And then we'll do another post-game pod, and I'll be like, I'm with you guys. Let's burn it all down, whatever. But there's another advantage, just outside the KJ talk for a second, of having that extra game that I hadn't really thought about. This whole helmet communications thing is already just in tonight has confused a lot of teams. And even Gus, because all the teams were like, we nailed it. We didn't practice, we didn't do it. Even Gus talked at length in the press conference tonight about how they were struggling with that, about he was working on balancing how much is too information. Am I in his ear too much? And he said that the halftime was kind of a mess when they get in there and they have the iPads and all this information, everyone's running around. It's like UCF, that's going to cost teams games. It's probably we probably don't even know it's cost a team a game tonight. UCF having 2 fake games to work all that stuff.
I prefer preseason. Okay. I don't know if that's any better, but fake games just sounds so much worse.
UCF having,
and you've been exclusively using that term.
Okay. So UCF having 2 fake games to work all this stuff out is really helpful, because kinks like that are going to cost teams games, and UCF doesn't have to deal with that. They have 2 games to work with stuff. And like I said, my take on the KJ situation, the KJ debacle, if you will be different.
I will, yes.
Will be different if against Sam Houston he looks just as bad. Then I will say, okay, there's a problem. But I just don't buy that. It felt more like rust. And listen, if we'd never seen him play before, I might feel differently. But we've seen for 3 years he doesn't have to look like this. This felt more like rust, and maybe not the best attitude for the first game of the season. Versus, I think he's
that's concerning enough to me, though. If that, I mean, again, it's based on speculation and just vibes and how he looked. But if he walks into the first game and was like, I don't care about this, I'm just going to go out there and have a lazy, whatever. I'll just do whatever tonight. That's not good.
It's not good, but it's more fixable than he's actually just that bad.
Yeah, I suppose. Unless he's just here to cash a check and finish off his college career. That wouldn't be good.
If that's true, props to him. What a strategy.
He swindled us all. Well, you know what's funny? I was thinking about this earlier too, is leading up to everything, we would see the hype videos or see practice videos, whatever, and people were making a lot of the fact that we never saw, they didn't show a lot of KJ highlights, and they were like, oh, they're kind of avoiding that. We're like, what's the deal there? And after tonight, I'm like, oh.
So I was going to say, because it was 1 or 2 podcasts ago, I said I was a little worried that we've gotten, like, there's been no hype around KJ. Like, there hasn't been anything bad. There just wasn't hype. And it was the same thing that's happening. And I'm like, I'm getting why there was a lack of
no hype. But yeah, they're also not going to come out and be like, oh, really bad.
Grayson McCall almost lost to Western Carolina. And on top of that, if you listen to the very interesting SJ2E Agenda Twitter space hosted by JP Gilbert, SJ2E also claimed that, by the way, we could do like 6 podcasts just on things SJ said in that
great
Twitter
for
space.
Content.
And maybe we will.
I met SJ tonight.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Did you compliment him on the space?
I didn't. I just shook his hand and didn't say much else.
Guys, go listen to that space. It's saved on Twitter. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn about how UCF was able to basically like shortchange Ethan Barr because he was the only... What?
Never mind. I can't say it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm afraid of what
no, I can't. We'll talk about it later.
Okay. I think I know where you were going to say.
Yeah, it was something that somebody said to me, but they said it to me in private, so I can't.
Yeah, he said it was good. He said it. He said at one point on the space that basically they couldn't get Ethan Barr because Washington quote threw a bag, dropped a bag on him, I think is what he said. But then DeBoer left, and I guess there was some issue with registration where Ethan Barr was only able to register with UCF. So SJ was like, "Yeah, it was great, so we would offer him like a lot less money."
Yeah, we basically we got to take advantage of the fact that he got his other coach left.
Yeah,
and we
but
got to swindle him.
Where I was going with this was one of the things that SJ dropped was that Grayson McCall was always just a leverage play to get KJ. It was not someone they were actually
not believe it whatsoever.
I don't know if that was a full
so you think if Grayson was going to be like, yeah, I'll come here, they'd be like, no, actually, we don't really want you. We were using you.
I don't know if you take a leverage play to a basketball game with your head coach, but either way, I'm just pointing out that Grayson McCall, A, just a leverage play, and B, and bad. So it could be worse. It actually could have been worse though. Because honestly, and this is what I said to you in the car on the way back when we were trying to not do the podcast before doing the podcast, but
which we sometimes do.
We're working on it, guys.
No, we're not.
We're really not at all.
We're 222 plus podcasts in. This is our final form.
That's a big number, man. This is too many. We need to stop. But
podcast is over. I did say if they lost to New Hampshire tonight, I was done with the podcast.
And they won 57-3. I would be feeling much more stressed about the KJ situation if a single other flaw had presented itself tonight. And there are other flaws. It's not a perfect team, but none of them presented themselves on night 1, and that's pretty rare.
The fact that you said like they almost lost to Western Carolina and Grayson McCall may be bad. He went 26 of 40 for 318 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I was stretching the truth and was hoping you weren't going to actively call me.
No, I was just curious because I hadn't seen his stats. I was curious if he actually was bad.
Yeah, it was not his fault. He did pretty well. He didn't run the ball well though, so he wouldn't have worked in the Gus Malls on offense. But again, I really am just I'm holding myself accountable. If KJ Jefferson goes out against Sam Houston and is really bad again, we will have the talk of it is now Ja'Curry time or Dylan Brisk time or EJ Colson time, or maybe just triple option with 3 of the running backs. Who cares? But okay, so we were having that conversation in the press box briefly. I understand that UCF would never abandon its entire offensive playbook and just run triple option this season, but like if for some reason they chose to do that, I think they could win like 8 games.
They could. RJ's played quarterback before, so make him the quarterback, quote unquote. And then, just run it with Penny and Miles and Johnny. That's like run the quadruple option. That's not a thing.
It would be really boring football, but I think they would actually.
I love watching people just run people over.
But so. I expect that we will see one of Gus Malzahn's favorite quotes that he says a lot and did say tonight is that you see the most improvement in a team from game 1 to game 2.
If he says that,
I know, and he says it a lot, and he does like yes. I think it's kind of true though. And I think we will see KJ improve. If he doesn't improve at all, I'll freak out. Until then, I'm just, okay, he's clearly not as good as we were expecting him to be. But the team looks so solid, I think he just needs to kind of go out there and not lose the games. Yeah. The running backs I don't understand how they've done this. There is no logical explanation for how a team can assemble. Those are 4 running backs. Gus said in the postgame, he was like, all these backups could go start anywhere. The fact that they've assembled this, like even Penny Boone, who we weren't seeing a ton of the first half, and they're like, let's give Penny Boone a carry. And he breaks off for like a
59-yard touchdown.
He finished with 75 yards. Can you read them out for me?
So RJ Harvey ran 11 times for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had a long of 60. Penny Boone 7 carries, 81 yards and a touchdown. Miles Montgomery 8 carries, 79 yards, 77 yards. That bothers me when they do the gain then the loss in the net. 77 yards and a touchdown. Ja'Curry Brown 7 carries, 60 yards, and then Johnny Richardson 7 carries, 40 yards. Which I was surprised. I thought Johnny, I guess he only had 7 carries, but I thought he ran for more than that. But he did average 5 points.
He had a loss at one point, which was part of that.
Okay.
So all of those running backs came together to blow away. We literally went into this season saying we think we have a top 2 running back room in the country. Then we saw the running backs play and we're like, we underrated them. That's how good the performance was tonight. And they set the 457 rushing yards, 454 rushing yards, which is a UCF record. It breaks a record they set with Kevin Smith, who they can, between that and what is looking to be a strong O-line, and between a defense that just looks so much more locked in, and with the fact that they appear to have hit on all of these transfers and some young guys, I really think KJ just needs to not lose them games. It's too bad, because I think if KJ had looked great, I would be like, undefeated. But I really think that if he can just get to average, which I believe he can, I believe in him. They can do it. It's not. It's bleak to say that we just need the quarterback to be average to win the conference.
It's just it feels like a lot of cope, but it's true.
I don't feel
I believe it, but it does feel like we're on here we just need him to be not horrible.
The way I see it is
to be after one game against New Hampshire to be he just needs to not look like absolute garbage. That's not a great place to be in.
The argument for it to be coping.
I would have rather said that after TCU.
But
I wanted him to look good against New Hampshire so that I could be
players look. I would rather have a player who sucks against New Hampshire and wins that TCU game than John Rice Plumlee, who built his entire stat line for 2 seasons off of the worst game.
Listen, you said the other day you're talking about how Mackenzie Milton threw 3 picks against SC State that one time.
I wasn't even going to bring it up because those performances were not comparable. I was literally already said I'm not bringing up the Milton thing because those performances.
Last thing I want to say about the offense, or not the offense, sorry. Well, it can't be the last thing to say about the offense because we did talk a lot about the running backs already. The last thing I'll say about the passing game, those poor wide receivers. Poor Kobe Hudson.
They all should go to the portal next.
I'll read you the stats from the receivers. So Kobe had 2 catches on 3 targets for 61 yards because he had a 46-yard catch. After that, is Colin Fox, is he listed as a receiver or a tight end?
I think he's technically, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think he's kind of
I don't know why he's even listed because I guess he had 2. Oh, because he's the only other one that had multiple catches on the night, actually.
Yeah.
2 catches for 11 yards. Then it's the running backs. It's Miles Montgomery had a 49-yard catch. Johnny Richardson had a 22-yard catch. And then there's Randy Pittman who had a 120-yard catch. And then after that, the receivers, it was Whittemore had 1 catch for 6 yards. Townsend had 1 catch for 4 yards. Gerard Baker had 1 catch for 4 yards when Jacurri came in, and Jacoby Jones had 2 targets, no catches. Chauncey Magwood got on the field and got 1
He did
target
get on the field
and no catch.
and confused the hell out of me because he's number 11 in the video game and is 4 in real life. So I had no clue who he was when he went.
You're like, why is Braden Marshall playing offense?
Honestly, Bailey, my gut instinct was I was just like Braden, which I knew was not right. But like I said, if you're Kobe Hudson, you're petitioning the NCAA for another year of eligibility because this is unfortunate. But
this man's trying to get to the NFL.
I really don't. Even if KJ does what I ask and ends up average, I don't see a situation where any of the receivers have gaudy stat lines this year. I said on the drive home, I was like, do we get to the end of the season and Kobe put up 450 yards?
And I think this is not something we really need to get into after the New Hampshire game, but I just because we're talking about it, Kobe put enough on tape last year and showed enough last year where I think his NFL prospects are still decent, but he could have a full year this year where it's not a lot of stuff is going to go on his highlight tape or his just tape overall. And that's not even, might not even be his fault. That's kind of sucks for it to be most of his production came 2 years ago before he got drafted. And it might hurt, it'll hurt his stock before it or because of it. And that's sad.
But I don't know, because if UCF's running back room attains national notoriety, it might be people saying, oh, well, he was really good this year. And then obviously they had their 4-headed running back monster. So they weren't throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe it can get spun
It could be.
Or maybe, again, we're doing the thing. We do this every year. We get one game and we watch it and we go, great. We know how the season's going to go. Maybe next game, Kobe has 130 yards to the air. We just don't know.
That's what I want to see. I feel a lot better about everything.
It's going to be, it's going to be off of some stupid play where he catches it 3 yards past the line of scrimmages and breaks tackles. But I don't know. Like I said, I guess to say, maybe because I keep saying I'm not worried. I am worried. I'm always worried. But I saw enough from this team to say, yeah, I think that there actually is the talents and the skill there to try to have a special season. They just got to figure out quarterback. And we'll see if they do. And worst comes to worst, listen, they're not tied to KJ. Worst comes to worst, they'll dump him. They'll put in Jacurri, which might just be how Timmy McLean was last year. We don't know. But we just got to wait and see.
Yeah. And that was a lot of offense. Again,
we talk about the defense.
We've prefaced all this, I hope, enough. We've said it enough by saying it was New Hampshire, and they won 57-3. and I think a lot of other teams they wouldn't have beaten 57-3, but the defense was fun to watch. And I know, again, New Hampshire, but there was just a lot of, there was stuff that you would see, like stuff you can take away from it. And I know we came into this saying like, oh, there's nothing we're going to learn, but like I thought Brandon Adams, Deshaun Pace, Braden Marshall, Antoine Jackson, I like so many guys in the secondary, I thought made plays on the ball. Deshaun Pace had the pick.
Sheldon Arnold had a good one too.
Yeah, he had a pick. Was it him that had was there a second pick, or did I make that up?
There was a second pick, but what? Check the box.
Do you have the stat?
It was not Sheldon Arnold. It was Deshaun Pace and Antoine Jackson.
Oh, was it Antoine Jackson? Yeah. Okay. I did the thing, which is super dumb because I haven't had in my video game. I haven't had Antoine Jackson for like a full season. But I'm like, oh, I think that interception that I'm thinking of with Antoine Jackson was in a fake game.
We are still awaiting the first ever Brandon Adams interception.
It'll happen. It's coming.
He had a really good night.
It's coming. No, it will happen. At some point.
I know. I think I said this earlier in the pod. See, I'm doing the thing where I'm like, what did I say to Bailey in the car when we did the pre-podcast? And what did I say on the podcast?
I'm doing the thing where I'm like, what did I say to Wild Bill earlier? And have I talked to you about this yet?
You just asked me if an interception happened in a video game.
Yeah, no, I know. It's 12:10.
It's 12:10 a.m.
This is the Postgame Podcast. We're back.
Yeah, we're so back. This is the energy they always have. If you're new, welcome. This is what they all are like. Go ahead.
I have another thing that I'm not happy about.
Okay.
0 sacks tonight.
I don't care. We do this. Okay, Bailey, every year we do this. We come out of the FCS game and we go, oh, they didn't get any sacks. Like, what was the game?
I mean, to be fair, yes, New Hampshire's clearly was like, we'll get the ball out quick. But I just did not see a lot of pressure. But
now, okay, so I will say the D-line could have gotten a little more pressure.
Yeah.
It could have. But I feel like we literally start every year of this debate and then they're fine. And the D-line honestly looked pretty solid the whole night, especially against the run. So I'm just not freaked out about that.
I'm not freaked out about it.
It is. But like I said, but what I was going to say was that the biggest difference with the defense, and I honestly felt like a vibes difference. They just wanted to kill the offensive players. I mean, the number of so Gus had said at media day, and he'd said this week that he'd said, oh, what I want to see are some plays that make you go, ooh. We saw like 10 of those plays tonight.
Such a stupid quote.
But we saw like 10 of those plays tonight, man. I mean, they were hitting hard. They just seemed so amped up. The energy was so high, and all the transfers seemed like hits, man. I mean, we kind of knew things were headed that way when they were all listed in the depth chart. It was a far cry from last year when they got all these transfers, and then we just kind of never heard about them. But
yeah,
I mean, there were just so many newcomers making plays, and Brian Threats made some plays. I'm feeling good about this defense. I'm feeling really good about this defense. And I'm sure now that's not to say, they're going to have to play Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter in a few weeks. I'm sure that I'm not going to feel as good about the defense that night as I do now. And I understand there's some good offenses in the Big 12, but it feels like from what we've heard about practice, from what we've seen as far as the players they brought in, and what we finally saw on All-Kim the other night, I think we can officially say it is not going to be anywhere near the train wreck it was last season. I really don't think that's on the
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't see a way out unless injuries happen, which is always a possibility.
Do you have anything else to say about the defense?
I think I know you said his name, but Braden Marshall, I felt like every time a big play happened tonight,
he had 2 tackles for loss.
He was flying around the frickin' field, man. I mean, he was such a. Remember, it was at Auburn. Who was it when he was at a high school? Another school came in and tried to snatch him at the last second.
I think it was Auburn, yeah.
Took a visit and all that, and I was bummed out because I felt like he could be a really good player. And it's just it's like. I hope that people understand that when we talk about recruiting and Gus is recruiting really well and UCF's doing really well, this is it paying off in year 4 when you have Braden Marshall out there playing really well, when you have Randy Pittman having a good game like that, when you have Xavier Townsend is like the most electric returner for UCF ever. Like that's it paying off. Yeah, I guess we go special teams now.
Yeah,
I got a couple of out there.
I said it on Twitter before. I think it was after like 2 of his returns. I was like, he's one of the most electrifying return men in college football. Like it was 2. It was 2. Well, he was good. Like, he was good at it last year. That's why I feel like it wasn't a super crazy overreaction because he was earning like preseason accolades, and I think he got an honorable mention last year as all Big 12 kick returner, punt returner. But tonight, it seemed like every one of his returns, maybe except for one. I think his worst return, he got like the 27.
Yeah, it was like. It wasn't like one note. He had some good returns because he found a hole. He had some good returns because he juked the defender into hell. He had some where he just sized up the situation and had a fair catch. It was really just so impressive.
He returned 6 punts for 86 yards and 3 kicks for 84 yards.
It's solid. He's going to return one this year. I know it in my heart. Yeah. I know it.
So he had 186 all-purpose yards and he only had 4 receiving yards.
Yeah, so big night for which this is the second straight year Xavier Townsend's had a big night in the first game. This one feels a lot more sustainable because it feels like he's finally found his role. I mean, I'm excited. Other special teams thing is Colton Boomer. Also, they got Grant Reddick in as a kickoff specialist, which was interesting.
I'm happy to see it. Brian and I were talking about it tonight. Wild Bill. We were talking about how, and I don't know, he brought it up, and I think I vaguely remember something about this where wasn't some of the injury concern with Colton last year the fact that he was doing kickoffs and field goals?
I don't know, but that sounds.
It sounds like it would be a thing. And so when we started the game, seeing Colton on kickoffs, we were like, oh, okay, I guess whatever. And then we saw Grant Reddick come in later on.
I thought Grant Reddick's kicks were fine.
Yeah, he had four. I don't know, 4 kicks, 239 yards, 59-yard average. I don't know what that even means. What is the average on a kickoff?
I really don't know.
I've never even heard of that.
But we did see 2 field goals from Colton. They were both makes. Neither of them were like straight up give me's. That seems positive.
Yeah. What was it? It was the first 2 of the game where UCF stalled twice.
Yep.
To start the game. 25-yard field goal, which should be a gimme.
Yeah.
The fact that I was nervous going into 25-yard field goal is not good.
Because you were nervous because it wasn't about that field goal; it was about the season.
Right. No. It was about like if he misses this, like he's cooked.
Yeah.
Because last year ended the way it did, but then the fact that he came out after that. And nailed a 39-yarder, but it was actually a delay of game, so it got pushed back to a 44-yarder. And I was even like, "This is the one he's going to miss."
Yeah, I was already
made that one too, so I feeling good about that. I did say like that was the thing that we could actually like learn from this game was how Colton looked because it's kicking field goals. Like it doesn't matter the opponent. Like if he came out and missed, you'd feel not very good about his confidence and kind of the headspace he was in after last year. But
yes, the 44-yarder had me. Okay, he's back. We're great.
Yeah.
I've actually never doubted Colton Boomer. Very excited for him. One other special teams thing that I wanted to call out that we missed was Ladarius Tennyson blocking a punt.
Yeah.
Then resulted in a safety.
Yeah.
They've talked about him all offseason as that guy who's just going to come in key moments and have a huge impact and make big one-off plays. And for him to show that in the first game was promising.
That was good. I don't need the other stuff's fine. Mitch McCarthy was fine.
Yeah, nothing.
37.5-yard average isn't great, but both of them were inside the 20. And I don't even really remember the punts. They were situational. If you put them inside the 20, fine. I'm not going to complain.
Do you have anything else to touch on before we talk about the most important thing?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The crowd was great. It
was okay.
What do you mean?
It never filled in fully. I was a little annoyed.
It didn't?
No.
It felt like it did.
I mean, I'm sure it was close to a sell. I'm going to take that back because people are going to get mad that I said that. It was, thank everyone for coming. That was great. I
mean, it was, for a Thursday night against New Hampshire, it was pretty full.
And I will say, while it was pretty full, it was probably over 40,000. While it never fully filled in, my 2 call-outs are 1, the energy was great, which is awesome because you never know with games like that. And B, I don't remember if I said 1 or A, but we're going to go with B for this next one. The students were they did not leave any room for the Twitter trolls to get angry. Like they were packed in there and they were loud and super in the game. That was exciting.
They were real feisty from the jump too.
I mean, the bounce houses
New Hampshire, which I was like, come on guys, New Hampshire.
Miles Montgomery and Deshaun Pace both made points in postgame to talk about how they enjoyed being on this side of the bounce house.
They announced attendance at 44,206.
Now that is a sellout and a lie, but it was. Did they really say that's the exact?
That's what it said on the game notes.
Okay, I'll be curious if that sticks. That really bothers me when that's like a huge pet peeve of mine when schools announce their exact capacity for games, because it's like really the exact number of seats you have in your stadium were the people who were in it. But whatever, cool, 44,000. Everyone lies. Who cares? But yeah, can we?
Yep.
Right.
Take it away.
So we have not spoken to you people, our listeners. I don't know why I said you people. That's an insult.
You people are complaining about KJ.
I did not mean it that way. No, if you're complaining about KJ, like, listen, I'm not going to stop you. It was bad. I'm just holding on. But
I'm glad we got there in the end.
Post-game pods are so fun.
Yeah.
We have not spoken since UCF released the Sinister Shamu uniforms. That's not their official name. That's what Dolly Drama called it. It's my favorite name ever. These were all elements of UCF uniforms we've seen before, but never put together in such a deliciously amazing way. We had a blackout with the Pegasus jerseys. We had the white script knights on the helmet, and we had white face mask and white clips, white bumpers. Oh my God. If this is not, I know that I do this a lot, that I get excited about the uniforms and I say they're great. It's not hyperbole if I say this is the best blackout UCF's ever worn, right?
I think I like it the best. Yes.
Seeing it on the field, the all white and black look, just the simple change to a white face mask should not make a whole uniform pop differently like that. But man, did it! I just that white face mask has been it has been a godsend for the equipment team. The things they've been able to do with it have been phenomenal through 2 years here, and I can't wait to see how else they use it this season. But the other thing I want to bring up about those uniforms is not just was it an awesome reveal, not just did they look so good. God, I just love those uniforms. On top of that, this is far and away, bar none, the most hype a non-space uniform has ever gotten for UCF. These uniforms took off on social media.
And I love the way they looked, and it surprised me. Why did that happen?
I don't fully know.
It almost felt like, and I tweeted this, and I was like, why did it seem like it was on not Thursday? Today's Thursday. Well, I guess now as we're talking, it's Friday.
Correct.
When did they do the release? Tuesday. On Tuesday, it seemed like that was the day that apparently every national account that covers college football realized, like they thought that they were referring them as like the UCF's Drip U flag.
That started with On3 misunderstood and was like, they've released new
Drip U uniforms.
It's like, no,
years.
But I think the craziest and most fun thing about that though was a bunch of other accounts repeated that, like the Barstool accounts, the Hard Rock accounts, all these big accounts, Bleacher Report, all these accounts tweeted it, and all of them referred to them as like, oh, they're drippy uniforms, and all the replies were like, like everyone was just like,
they're like, oh, those are sick.
I think it was a combo of three things that made this giant launch possible. I think number one is they are just really sick uniforms with a really sick photo shoot, and the photos looked incredible and were pretty captivating. I think two, it's the first Thursday game of the season. This was like, there weren't a ton of uniform reveals this week. Like they had a little more attention. And three, UCF just has a bigger spotlight now. We've talked about this before, and I feel like it's hard to make it tangible for fans. And maybe if you're not on social media as much, you don't notice it, but like UCF just genuinely gets more attention over the small stuff than it did when it was in the group of five. And it's just, a Power 4 team is wearing this cool uniform, so let's aggregate that. Let's put it on our account. It's just
to kind of back that up. Like I got to look, and I'm saying this without knowing for sure, but I'm pretty sure I saw them do it. I think either they might have done both or either or. I think the Big 12 retweeted them or posted them themselves. And I kind of wonder if some of the national accounts were like, okay, like not that they maybe don't follow the AAC accounts or whatever, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if AAC would like.
I don't think
put out
AAC,
UCF's uniform.
If I remember right, the Big 12 actually did their own post about the uniform.
And so I think maybe these accounts see the Big 12 and be like, okay, like they catches their attention that way, and it's just the fact that they're in the conference.
Yeah, and it just bodes well for what I'm hoping will be a very exciting uniform year. I know next week they're doing the Arnold Palmer Children's decals, similar to the for spring game, which is really, really cool. And that's just transitioning. That's UCF's uniforms in a nutshell, right? You can transition from the coolest freaking uniform you've ever seen to like something that has so much meaning.
Yeah.
And then we got space uniforms coming up at some point. I'm sure UCF has many other awesome combos cooking for all these games. Colorado dropped their new uniforms tonight, which by dropped them, they like ran out on the field in them and were like, surprise, here they are. Because I think I'm pretty sure.
I was going to say, you said, have you seen Colorado's new uniforms? And I was like, I feel like I would have seen them leading up to the game.
I am suspicious of the belief that they literally just got them because everyone did their uniform reveals and Colorado just was quiet. And then suddenly they were like, here they are. I was very worried about that and had been for months. It's been weighing on me. I've had some stress because I just know how people are, and I was so worried that Colorado's going to drop some insane uniforms, and because they're Colorado, people are going to be like, wow. Yeah. And then UCF fans would do their thing. I'm like, why don't we have uniforms that as good as the other black and gold teams' uniforms?
That's what you guys sound like.
That's what some of you sound like, and you know who you are. Yeah,
you people.
You
freaking people.
With the you people, but yeah, the people who can never be happy with the uniform combo. And luckily Colorado dropped the uniforms, and they're not very good, so we don't have to worry about that. They're not bad. They're just weird. They have this mountain pattern, which I think was very close to
I didn't even know it was mountain.
Like, it was very, like I said, there's something there. There's something with that idea, but they almost look like it looks like shattered glass almost, or like spider webs. I don't know. They were close.
Strange.
They also kind of have to pick. I don't know why we're now analyzing Colorado's uniforms. I'm big on every uniform should have a primary color and a secondary color. I think the best uniforms are streamlined like that. They couldn't pick a secondary color. It's an all black uniform. It has a white face mask and white lettering on the back of the jersey. Then it has a gold decal and gold numbers, and it's just trying to balance two different secondary colors in one uniform. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. Yeah. And I think the best uniform, especially what's in right now, primary color, secondary color. So it's a little busy. It just feels like a lot. Then you throw in the mountain pattern. It's like, okay, now we got a lot going on here. So I think UCF is still the best dressed black and gold team in the Big 12. Even though the gold was absent from tonight's combo. Also, that's another thing I want to say about the uniforms really quickly. I'm sorry. I'll shut up soon.
Problems.
this is the whole black and white uniform thing has kind of been in recently. Like West Virginia dropped their coal mine uniforms or whatever the hell they are, and Iowa State famously decided to start wearing those. They wore them in the Fiesta Bowl for some reason.
They won the Big 12 championship game too in 2020.
Actually, no. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
I'm thinking of that. It hits so much differently when it's a school where that's actually their colors. Like UCF just it holds a different level of authority when it doesn't feel like this is some super off-brand thing. Like UCF's out there wearing that, and that's just their brand, man.
Yeah.
And the little hints of gold that were still in there really did just kind of add this next very muted, but very just, I don't know, brought it all out a little bit more. Strong uniforms, man. I'm in love with them on a deep level.
All right, we'll end there. That was great. That was beautiful. Unlike KJ's performance tonight.
I thought we were ending on a high note.
We did. Oh, they won by 54. I won't say the other thing that bothered me.
Okay.
It was just my bet. I missed the over by 4 points, and it was because they called a goal line fade on 4th and goal from the 2-yard line with Ja'Cory Brown in the game. Well, in there, the uniforms were great, and Christian said a bunch of beautiful things. But we will be back early next week, probably Monday, right?
Yep.
I don't know. I just blanked on the day we normally.
It will be Monday.
We'll be Monday.
We'll be back Tuesday for you guys because we record on Monday. But
sure. Episode 223. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at by CA Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.